It is, and it's time to meet this week's Woman of the Week now. And I am very, very excited about this gal. She is an artist who I've just loved for years. I've loved her since I was at university. I used to play her a lot on my student radio station. She's an exquisite songwriter, a multi-instrumentalist and performer. And just overall, she's a good egg, you know. Orla Gartland is from just outside Dublin in Ireland, but she now lives in London. She's got such a unique sound and her lyrics are personal and raw, but she can also write one heck of a good bop. To date, she's released a few EPs and a few singles, but her latest single, More Like You, has just come out and we'll be playing that a little bit later. She's also got a debut album out, which I'll be covering in the interview as well. Now, Orla is uber talented, but I really wanted to know how new this huge passion for music actually is in her life.
It's relatively new, yeah. I mean, my parents were always music fans, but they didn't play music. They were very keen for... I have a brother and sister, both younger. They're pretty keen for all of us to play instruments, I think. So, yeah, I do get a sort of, like, I do get a bit of music from them, but they have strange tastes. And it was a real mixed bag of things playing in my house when we grew up. I always wish that I had, a cool answer for this question. I always wish I could be like, grew up on a cocktail of Joni Mitchell and James Taylor, but like it wasn't like that at all. It was like whatever was on the radio, basically. So I'm not sure where it comes from initially. I played violin for the first couple of years, like traditional Irish fiddle stuff, and then a couple of years after that picked up guitar, and that accelerated a little bit more because I liked pop music. I wanted to be able to play songs I could hear on the radio, and I wasn't getting that from violin or recorder or anything else I'd played up to that point. So yeah, I think it was quite gradual, but I don't know where it comes from in the first place, really.
So what musical instruments do you play now, and what's your favourite to play?
The most natural is the guitar, just because that feels like my main one. It feels like almost like a weird extension of my arm. I play a little bit of piano and play a little bit of all the kind of offcuts from guitars. So like from Dodie's gig, I can play like a bit of uke and stuff. I don't know if I'd even count that like as a whole separate thing. That just feels like a small guitar. It really is mainly guitar, yeah, and like a little bit of piano and a little bit of keys.
So what inspires you now, and what kind of music are you listening to at the moment? What are you a big fan of?
I've realised that I listen to like not entirely women, but definitely like predominantly women the last like year or two. I don't know how they came about. Maybe Haim. I have a Haim like hat right here in front of me.
I love that.
Women in Music Part 3. Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of them. I've been listening to a lot of a girl called Samia, who's this American artist that you should check out. Like incredible album called The Baby. Yeah, I'm just liking a lot of girls with guitars. That's quite like a predictable thing for me to like, I guess. But I think for years and years I listened to dudes and I listened to a lot of bands, and now I'm finding myself just drawn to like, maybe predictably, but to the format of a solo female artist, and like all that can be in the like that can be anything from Bjork to Laura Marling. That's just such a huge range, and I just love. Just women are great, So, yeah, it's very varied. How about you? What kind of stuff is your favourite?
I am absolutely loving Dodie right now. I have Hate Myself and Cool Girl and Rainbow and all her other stuff, like her more recent stuff, just on repeat all the time.
Her album is so good. You're going to...
Oh, have you listened to Build a Problem?
I have, and it's just so nice to watch her grow into herself. I feel like we were both, we're the same age. We started at a similar point. We came up through YouTube, and then from that, in not too dissimilar way, went on this journey to like taking this kind of internet thing that we had and turning it into like a tangible thing where we play gigs and do all the other parts, and like growing into that role, learning to like command a rehearsal room, learning how to put together a live show. We've both learned that in real time. So it's like, yeah, it's just so, I'm so chuffed for her. She's amazing.
The favourite woman in music that you've picked, Sylvain Esso, Ferris Wheel, the song. I know they're a duo, so can you talk to me about them and why you picked them?
Yeah, they're a couple. He's the producer. She produces as well on Top Lines. And they make this like really fun dance music with the really organic sound. So like, you know, it doesn't sound super electronic. It's really warm and beautiful and vocoders and like tiny percussive sounds. And they've had a few albums, but the one they put out last year is called Free Love. And I just thought it was really special, and it just like was the soundtrack of a lot of last year for me. And I've seen them in interviews speak about how the song is basically about being like almost being like 15 and just being like, you know, about to kiss people for the first time, and just like you're just alive and full of hormones and full of excitement, and everything is new and crazy and charged. And I just think this song does like such a good job of like capturing that feeling. It's so fun.
That's Ferris Wheel by a duo called Sylvain Esso, and that is picked by this week's Woman of the Week, Orla Gartland. And what I really admire about Orla is that she's so involved in everything she does. She loves to produce, she loves to write, and of course perform her music. She's also very involved with her music videos as well. I fully recommend you go check those out, and we'll be chatting about those in a little while. And being involved in all of this kind of stuff within music is something that she really advocates, and she really encourages other indie musicians like her to do.
I just think anyone who makes music, like, it's so great. You don't have to necessarily produce your own stuff. Like, it's not for everyone, but having like the vocab to collaborate with people and have your say in it, and it's so important. I think every artist should have a heavy hand. And when I was starting out right at the beginning, like, it was much easier to come do a vocal, sit at the back of the room, watch someone else do it, because I didn't have the skills or the even the instincts to know like how I would do that. But you know, that's how your project runs away from you. And the kind of artists that I love, they do have like a huge control and a grip over all their bits. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted for myself in that.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely shows, I think, just with your videos that you posted online, again, like the videos in your bedroom where you're using that pedal thing, and you're like almost like, you know what Ed Sheeran does with his all loopy thing. I don't know, I'm not very techy. But yeah, I think that's something that really stood out for me about you as a musician, and I wish there were more people doing that.
Oh, sick. I mean, I think there are loads of people doing that, and I think more and more now, like looking at TikTok, looking at like all these different parts of the internet, like all of this knowledge is becoming more accessible, and like the format of the DIY musician, the bedroom musician, it's opening up massively to so many different types. And I think, and the gear to make all this stuff is cheaper than ever. So I think it's like a really amazing time to just give it a go.
I want to talk about your songwriting, because I don't know how you do it, but you have this amazing ability to write a song about my brain every single time.
Sick.
How do you do it, please? How do you get?
I've been reading your diaries. You left them under your bed. I just read them.
Damn it. Yeah, your songwriting. Oh my gosh, I was actually watching the video to Did It To Myself the other day, and I was like sobbing.
Oh no.
Because it just hit me, you know. Yeah. How have you perfected and practiced this over the years?
It's different with each song, but I think, you know, like everything, I've put in my like thousands of hours, and I've written like hundreds of extremely bad songs that will like never ever see the light of day. So I think that's like important to remember, as is with everything. I know that's always really boring to figure out that actually it's just practice, but it just is. I think like my instincts of what I want to write songs about have always been the same. Like, I do remember being quite young and thinking like, I don't necessarily want to just write songs about I don't know, like relationships and breakups all the time. I mean, obviously with Did It To Myself and like Freckle Season, that whole era, like I did dip for the first time into breakup territory, but up until then I'd like really like deliberately avoided it, because I was like, I just think it's such an obvious thing to write about, and like surely my voice added to that won't, surely I can't say anything that hasn't been said before, so I would generally like opt for writing songs about weird friendship dynamics or like my brain or just something else, you know. So I remember kind of early on wanting to have a slightly different like narrative voice to like the regular format of like a singer-songwriter, I guess, which is, you know, to lean into stereotypes is like about, you know, certain things, and it's always sad. And I definitely wanted to like challenge that kind of thing. But yeah, I just like think with anything, you grow into your narrative voice after a while. And I think I, over the years, like realized what I like about other songwriters and tried to apply that. Like I think one thing I used to do when I was much younger was like coat everything in metaphors, like, you know, really kind of vague, flowery language. Whereas now, in the last couple of years, like looking at people like Phoebe Bridgers, who I'm like a huge fan of, it's so literal. Like she's using these metaphors, but it's also like so descriptive and so like conversational, pretty regular kind of language. So I think, yeah, like with anything, like I took my instincts that were initially there from the beginning in my own kind of instinctive style, but also like realized things like that and then tried to marry them.
Yeah, I think the reason why, on reflection, why your music gets through to me so much is because of like how raw and like personal, and there's not a lot of flowery language in it with other artists that I love. And it must be quite vulnerable, and it must feel like you're kind of opening yourself out to the world with writing about certain things that you have.
Yeah, I kind of think that's a good thing, though. Like, again, it's like what I applaud in other artists is honesty and, yeah, like a ruthless, almost like uncomfortable honesty. I can like get behind that. I'm into that when I listen to people. So why not just offer that up? Like, it is vulnerable, but you know, it is also, you know, there is also a character. Like, even though it's my name, it's hard to think this way because it's my name. My artist name is just my name on my birth cert. But like Orla Gartland, the singer, I know is slightly different to like Orla Gartland, the person. So it is easier sometimes to like embellish and not necessarily lie, but like, you know, twist truths in lyrics and ham things up or play things down. Like, you still have some control, so like it's vulnerable, but you can always choose what to include and leave out in terms of like your own life and how you feel. So your song Pretending, we're going to chat about because I'm going to play it in a bit. Can you talk to me about this song? Yeah, I started it with my friend Tom. It was originally a song about, well, it was always a song about being at a party, just as like a format. That was always the case. But originally the idea was way more niche, and it was a song about being at a party and pretending to be more like moody and dark to appear interesting. Because I was thinking a lot about the artists that I like, people like Laura Marling and like these really like dark, witchy, spooky people that I've always wanted to like emulate in my music, but I'm not really like that. And so it was about just this party full of people that were all putting on this like front to try and appear more interesting. And that was where the like, all my heroes are way more sad than me line came from. And that's as far as we took it in 2019. And then in 2020, when I kind of repurposed it and opened it back up and reworked it and demoed it again, I figured that was a little bit too niche. I did keep that one line because I just quite liked how it sounded. But it became way more just about being at a party and pretending to be someone that you're not.
Pretending. That's Pretending by Orla Gartland, this week's Woman of the Week. And I think a lot of Orla fans are listening tonight. So if you are, drop me a text. You can text me on 81400. Start your message with GFM and let me know how much you love Orla Gartland. Just send me the Woman of the Week love. And that song Pretending, as well as her new single More Like You, are both featured on her debut album, along with 9 other tracks. The album will be out later this year, and I can't wait to buy a copy. Even though I don't know what the name of the album is, I don't know when it'll be out, I'm just very excited. And me being so excited about this album, I really had to ask her more about it.
It's just been like a joy to make. I really felt after Freckle Season, which was my last CP, that I was just ready for a bigger body of work. Like Tom, who I co-produced with, we both got to the end of that process and we were like, okay, we want to do that, but like 3 times as long. So yeah, my band are playing on it. They've never like actually been involved in that side of it before. Usually I make the music, finish it, and bring it to them to bring it to life on stage. But this time, like, they were involved, and I demoed it, you know, myself in my small studio down the road, and then brought it to an amazing studio in Devon in October of last year. We kind of caught this sort of sweet spot between the lockdowns, and it was just such a crazy like release as well, because obviously I hadn't played with the band in, at that point, like a year. So it was like just a really like emotional few weeks, because I was taking all these demos that were so close to my chest that I'd worked on in like, you know, the utmost isolation, and then opening up to the floor, playing them with the band in a room in real life. It was just like such an amazing experience. I just knew the kind of experience I wanted to have, go to this residential studio, and like as an independent artist, honestly, I didn't really think I would get that. I thought I'd have a very like compromised experience, but we sort of made it happen in the end, and everyone that was involved was just the perfect person for the job. It was great.
Before we play More Like You, I really want to just talk to you briefly about your music videos, because I find them so simple but effective. I wonder if that's what you're going for, is like, how much involvement do you have in the ideas for your music videos?
Yeah, a lot of involvement. Yeah. I'm like booking the venues, and yeah, I'm in the thick of it. Definitely not something I like hand out to anyone else. Yeah, the last couple of videos we've done for these songs, Pretending More Like You've both been one shots, which is like a deliberate thing. I really love the feat of the one shot. Is like, it's just really good because you're not relying on an edit, and it means that you can construct an idea and you can see it through, and you can just watch it back on the day and decide what the take is, and you don't have that luxury when it's like chopping, changing between lots of different setups and edits. So I really like the one shot format. I would definitely like to continue that on for the next video too. And yeah, my friend Greta Isaac, who's been art directing my whole album, she directed the More Like You video with me, and she art directed the Pretending video, so she like helped decorate that bathroom set, and she's just been like great. A music video should serve the song, it shouldn't distract from it. For me, I don't love like short films with you can get music videos that feel like short films with, and also there's music happening in the background. You know, so it's like this weird thing where like you almost don't want to make it like too far away. And I think that's kind of what's quite grounding about the one shot, is even though the two music videos are like quite different, but they do have that in common. And I think hopefully it just lets the song do its thing, like brings a visual layer to the song that, you know, means you can close your eyes, picture that song, and you maybe picture the video, but it's not trying to overpower it.
Yeah. So the actual song More Like You, I think I interpret it in a little different way than you did. You actually wrote about it. But can you talk to me about what the song is about before we play it?
Can I hear your version first?
Yes. So it is actually rather similar, but it just took me back to my teenage obsessing over certain music artists kind of days, where you're seeing a certain artist and you're like, oh my gosh, they're like perfect, they can do no wrong, I will defend them at every opportunity. And almost the harmful side of that. In
my case, it was about like a friend, like my best friend's other best friend, who, again, to me, yeah, in a similar way, was just like this person who could do like no wrong, and I just rounded off all her edges in my head and made her, you know, seem like this really simplified, perfect version of herself, and wanted to be her, basically. But I think that still applies, and like it's been really interesting seeing the different interpretations. In a way, like telling people what the song about is like, I mean, you have to do that now, in a way, like just to give people some context, and I'm never like that guarded about it, but it's so interesting seeing like what people, like a lot of people said that it reminded them of like, you know, breaking up with someone and then the other girl or the other person that your ex is going out with, how you might feel about them and looking at them. And I think all of it applies. Yeah, but for me, it was like a very petty friend jealousy. To finish us off, could you, in true radio style, introduce More Like You for Gorgeous FM? Absolutely. This is Orla Gartland, and this is my song More Like You for Gorgeous FM.
That song has been stuck in my head for days. That is the new single by Orla Gartland, More Like You, on the Women in Music show on Gorgeous FM. And Orla Gartland was my Woman of the Week this week, and what an incredible woman she is. Her debut album will be out later in the year, so keep an eye on her socials, which is Orla Gartland on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook for all the news on that. And More Like You is out now. Also, a big thank you to Orla and Claire, her manager, for helping to arrange that. And thank you for all their time. And from everyone here at Gorgeous FM, we wish you the best with your debut album and just your general music. You know, you're brilliant. So a little bit more news this week.